Yeah, one of the powers of society, one of the positive powers of society is the ability to
Yeah.
ostracize
Just
people. I'm not sure what the solutions are on a bigger scale. Like I said, I can only speak for myself personally. I know that there's a lot of people who are prepared to make decisions that affect everybody and think it's the right decision. I think it always turns out to be the wrong decision generally in the long term. Um, um, two things that make a lot of sense to me. Related to we mentioned John Lennon earlier, right? You know, two things. All you need is love. That's Lennon's song, and give peace a
mm,
chance. John Lennon's song, right? He was interviewed about give peace a chance, and of course the reporter in his mindset, like, was saying, "Yeah, I don't get it. I don't understand the song. You know, what are you trying to say? What are you doing with this song?" And John Lennon says, "Well, you know, we've never given peace a
yeah.
chance. All we have is conflict after conflict after conflict. Why don't we just stop, take a step back, give peace a chance?" And that's a that's a sentiment that I try to
Yeah.
follow. Yeah, and I do that knowing that I get things wrong, knowing that I'm a person that makes mistakes, but understanding that those mistakes come from the right place. It's all part of a process of growth. And you know, you also mentioned that the psychopathic mindset. I think as a society, we are to a certain extent now aware of psychopathy, of narcissism, of those elements that we were less, I don't know, if, less aware of in the past, or we didn't know how to cope with it, or we didn't know how to deal with it, and now we're sort of at a point where we're like, okay, there are elements of society that are very much like that, and there are ways that we can grow and learn to deal with that. And a lot of the personal development coaching that I do with people is overcoming the the trauma of the past, and there's still a lot of
Mm,
that in society, and there still is going to be a lot of that. A lot of this forcing people to be at home, as we know from certain posts, has, you know, seen child abuse
mm.
skyrocket, right? Let me codify that. Socialism, Marxism, communism fails for the simple reason that it doesn't recognize the dark side of the human character. Everybody has a light side and a dark side within themselves, and the dark side is the questions that we ask ourselves, the problems that we work through, the tendency to be pulled towards certain elements of immorality,
Well,
and the problem with the socialist idea is that it's a great idea, but it just refuses to acknowledge every single person is pooled in different ways. Let me just add to that. One thing that I've tried to do personally to help myself understand why we have some of these problems in society is I set up a special podcast that I run called Made in Moray. And what I do, because this region, Murrayshire is this region
yeah.
that I live in the north of Scotland, and I was, you know, I'm curious, how does it work? And there's a lot of people doing a lot of different things, and everyone's got their own little area. And I was thinking, well, I'd like to know more about things that I don't know about. So how do I get out there and learn about all these different things that I wouldn't normally be involved in or understand normally? So I thought, well, I'll set up this podcast and I'll interview local business people about their businesses. I'll help them promote their business, and at the same time, I'll learn about how they got where they got and about their sphere of the world that I wouldn't normally know anything about. Yeah. And what I've discovered from doing this is that there's so much more going on than we can ever understand. That I said before, look, I understand 1% of everything, and 99% I just don't get, or I don't know about. Yeah. And now I'm like, I understand 0.0000001% of everything, because the more that I've interviewed these people, the more I've realized the less I know, and that we're basically all in the same
Do you
situation,
know?
right? Everybody's suffering. There, just to highlight that, there's no element. of a free and open society that is non-essential, right? That there's nobody in a free and open society contributing something to society that is non-essential. There's very few, if any, businesses at all are non-essential. They exist because they're providing a certain service to people that they want or need to a certain extent. It's it's absolutely crazy that, and I know that we're aware of why that is, and we're aware of the sort of social Darwinist elements that are at play there. But we we do all contribute a hell of a lot, and we do all misunderstand, I think, to a certain extent, the contributions that other people make. And I'm always, I think that people tend to live in little bubbles. It's not negative. It's just the way that we survive as human beings. And we're sort of like try this for an analogy. We're all like in our little bubbles, just colliding with each other, right? trying to cope with what's happening in our own lives. And what I learned from doing that podcast series, which I'm still in the middle of right now, is the struggles that other people are going through, physically, socially, through their business, mentally, subconsciously. It's it's quite incredible. And people who I would have maybe criticized before, um, and I tend to be a critical person, but I try to be constructively critical. Um, People who I would have criticized more, I find it really, really hard to criticize them. A lot of the time, the more I learn about them and the more I learn about what they do. So it's really, really fascinating and interesting process. And I, I urge everybody to explore as much as possible, which is I think how we learn. I just think the quest.